Here we are. We are at the final session. We've created a website. We've chosen our audience. We've started to find clients. We've led client sessions. They're recommending other people to come to us, and our business is growing. But how do you continue to grow your business besides just getting more clients? And when you have a lot of them coming in, how do you protect yourself from overwhelm and not allow your business to take over your life? How do you automate processes like billing or accounting and business maintenance? Also, how do you take your business to the next step and do higher profile things like public speaking or even writing your own book? We're going to get into all of these things in this session and talk about growing your business to the point that it provides stable, full-time income. In this session, we'll talk about how to automate processes in your business and get others to do tasks that you don't like to do or can't do very well, the parts of your sales funnel, how do you transform viewers and readers into customers, into loyal customers, and how everything we've learned up to this point are part of our sales funnel. We'll talk about the easiest way to write a book, which will help a lot in growing your business. Finally, how to become a paid public speaker. Some of these final steps might seem a little bit beyond our grasp, especially if we're still dealing with the early stages of creating our consulting business, of building our website, finding the first few clients, and we might think, well, how can I think about writing a book when it seems so far away? It's always good to work on things right now, but also keep your eyes on the horizon and think medium term and long term. So when the moments do arrive that you can do these things, then you're ready. And that's why we're going to talk about it here. Once you get your first income from your consulting business, you might wonder, how do I multiply it 2 times, 3 times, or even 5 times? The key to creating wealth is to boost systems that create income and create more systems that require as little work from you as possible. Then, taking those systems and boost them to increase their performance so that with less effort and less time, they make more money. This is what you need to do to grow your consulting business. To create systems that generate income while requiring as little work from you as possible and incrementally boosting the performance of those systems. Systems can be automated. That's why they're so great. Maybe there are things that you do where you think, it would be great if I could find somebody else to do this. The way that you can best find someone else to do things for you is to repeat things that you do, multiply them, and then outsource them. This includes all of the systems that operate your business, including the traffic getting systems, the product delivery systems, and customer fulfillment systems. When I'm talking all about systems in a business, it helps to think about McDonald's. Think about a McDonald's restaurant. The shift manager might only be 18 or 19 years old. Where else would you see a business, a multi-million-dollar business, that's being run by an 18-year-old? The reason that McDonald's can do this, and I know because I worked there for 1.5 years in high school, is because every single possible thing you could do as an employee has been outlined and dictated by a system. You're not really free to make any independent decisions by yourself because there's a guidebook and there's a system that leads you through absolutely everything you could possibly do. McDonald's is by no means the height of culinary exquisiteness, but it's able to funnel millions of people who work for it, and they're able to hire and fire hundreds of thousands of people in a year because they have such an effective system built. So that's something to think about as we try to build up our own business. What are processes and things that we do over and over again? How do we make those very efficient? How can we hand those off to other people? And how can we get others to help us out in the simplest and least expensive way possible? The way you start to do this is by making a procedure list. I do something over and over again until I learn how to do it well. Then I make a checklist with exact steps on how to do it. Then I pass it on to someone else. I can include images and arrows if I want to point something out using software like Snagit. Then I add it to a procedure list I'm putting together. When I first outsource a task to somebody that I don't want to do, I give them a procedure list. That task can be completely repeated and outsourced, and you don't have to do it anymore. This is the first way to think about how to prevent a business from taking over your life. so you can focus on parts of a business that only you can do and that you truly enjoy. I'll show you a little later how to hire someone to do something for you. In my case, I do a lot of work with book publishing and formatting books and graphic design for book covers. I always find someone else to do that for me, so I'm going to show you the exact steps that I use to find someone else that can implement my system and do the work for me. It's been a tremendous help to me in my business, and I want you to have the same benefit. Let's first think about which tasks you should give to other people. This matrix will help you think about outsourcing. It's arranged on the basis of operational importance on the horizontal axis and strategic importance on the vertical axis. The basic idea is that if something is unimportant operationally and strategically, you eliminate it. There's no reason for it to be there. If it is unimportant for one of those two things, you outsource it or work with somebody who can do it better. If it is important operationally and strategically, you keep doing it. Let me break down this idea a little bit more. In order to create systems that require as little work as possible, think about all the things that you do in your business. Graphic design, emailing people, follow-up, finding traffic for your website, doing cold emailing, reaching out with people, making contacts, all the things that you're doing as part of your consulting business. There are things that you are bad at that you don't need to do. We eliminate these things. For example, what if somebody told me that I need to be on Instagram for my business? I'm not, but I would be bad at that. I'm just not into picture taking and posting it. And I don't need to do it, so I don't do it. There are also things that you are bad at, but you need to do, such as graphic design. I could not design anything, so I outsource all of my graphic design to somebody else. There are things that you are good at, but you don't need to do. This is the hard one to let go of, and this is something that you really have to think about. For example, for me, I use social media marketing. I use a lot of Facebook marketing. I enjoy that, actually. I'm kind of strange that way, but that's something a lot of people could do for me, and I don't have to do that. If I let somebody else do it, then I'm freed to focus on the fourth thing, and this fourth thing is where you want to focus maximum energy so that you can have as effective of a business as possible, and that is important tasks that you do well, and these are things that only you can do, such as leading a consulting session, writing a bit of content like a blog post. Only you can do this, and the goal of an efficient business is that you're only doing number 4, and you've created systems so that somebody else can do number 2 and number 3. It takes a long time to build up to the point where you're only doing number 4. People who've been working on this for years or even decades might be able to spend about 90 to 95% of their time doing number 4. When you first start out in your business, you're doing everything, and maybe only about 20 or 30% of your time is spent doing number 4 because you haven't built up systems yet and you don't have enough income coming in to be able to outsource number 2 and number 3. But at some point when you do have enough income, you will be ready to. Let me give you just a little sneak preview on how you can do that for your own business. When it comes time for you to outsource an activity, you've created the systems, you have a procedure list, and you want somebody to do something for you, use one of these two websites, elance.com or odesk.com. They're really the same, but basically you put up a task that you need somebody to do. A bunch of people will put forth bids, and then you choose someone and they'll do it for you. A little bit later on in this session, I'll show you exactly how to use Elance when I get to the process of creating your own book. But just to let you know that that is out there, and this is an integral part to creating systems for your business and giving tasks that aren't as important to others who could do it better than you could. I want to say a couple of other things about creating systems because this really is important when you're getting into the advanced levels of your business. Let's talk about what a system looks like in your business. A business is a box with time and money on the front end, and on the other end comes out more money. The more efficient you make it, the more you can boost your performance. Consider where you are limited in your business. One area you're limited in is your time. Being a consultant means that you're trading hours for dollars, and the more hours you can give to consulting, the more you can earn. But if you're doing lots of things that aren't consulting and you're doing tasks that somebody else could do, that takes away time. If you are charging $100 to $200 an hour for consulting, but it takes you an hour to make a graphic that would only cost $5 or $10 for someone else to do it, you need to get somebody else to do those things so that you can do more consulting, and this will bring in a lot more revenue into your business. Another thing to consider in how you can grow your business is finding ways to increase the value of each one of your hours. One way to do that, like I said, is to consult more. Another way is to charge more money per each hour of consulting. The other thing is to grow your sales funnel. Your sales funnel is the key system of your business. It is the money generating part of your business. It's called a funnel because it's wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. That is the definition of a funnel. The idea of the funnel is how much engagement people have with you. The top of the funnel is how people first engage with you. The bottom of the funnel is people who are most engaged with you. These are your true fans. At the top of the funnel, you're dumping in a lot of traffic. These are visitors to your website or people who follow you on social media. Not all of them, but some will go to your website. Further down the funnel, not all of them, but some will read all of your blog posts. Then some of them will do a 20-minute free consultation session with you. Then some will do a paid session with you. Then some will do long-term coaching with you or buy your product. Then some will become repeat buyers and become one of your 1,000 true fans. Then some will recommend you to others. As you are moving them through the funnel, converting them from one stage to the next, you're moving them along a track. There are systems that turn them from visitors to subscribers to a buyer to a repeat buyer to a superfan. We looked at social media, building a website, and free consultations and sales generating systems in previous sessions as part of this course. The reason I gave those to you in the sequence that I did is because those were each part of the sales funnel. The purpose of the funnel is to convert prospects into buyers. At every step, we are converting some portion of visitors to subscribers, some subscribers to buyers, and some buyers to repeat buyers. Growing your business is about fine-tuning your system and growing your sales funnel to get more sales. If you increase the top of the funnel and get more traffic, more people will come into your system. If you make the funnel wider in the middle or at the end, there won't be any bottlenecks, the traffic won't get congested, more people will become subscribers and buyers and repeat buyers. If you increase the number of people you convert to subscribers, that funnels down and multiplies out to the other side. Increasing each part of the funnel leads to greater value and more money made from your business. How do you widen your funnel? I started my business by choosing an audience, giving them content, creating a product, pitching it to clients, following up with them, and pleasing them. These are my leads. I created a system of a website, social media, an email list, which funnels them down into products. Then I made a product, which makes them clients. I wondered, I'm making a few $1,000s off of an internet business. How do I make it a full income? I always ask, what is the next level and how do I get there? Well, I can do one of three things to make my funnel wider and multiply my income. The first way to widen your funnel, the top, is to get more traffic. Get more people to come to your website through blog posts, a better website, getting more active on social media. The second way is to convert more traffic into subscribers and buyers. Widen the middle of the funnel. If people subscribe to your blog posts, they subscribe to your Twitter feed, they subscribe to your LinkedIn profile, they're more engaged with you. The third way is to come up with new products and value they might be able to buy. If I only have one product, my consulting package, then that's only one thing that people who are really engaged can buy. What if I had 2 products? What if I had 3 products? That widens the bottom of the funnel. So people who've gone all the way through and want to have more content than just the one product I got can purchase that, and I can have more engagement with those repeat buyers. After all, your 1,000 true fans will buy everything you put out, so you want to cater to them. Let me tell you about some of the things I've done recently to widen my funnel. At thescholarpreneur.com, I have 2 new things at the top of my funnel to attract traffic. The first is a free ebook I wrote called How to Finish Your Dissertation in 6 Months, even if you don't know what to write. It's available for free on Amazon as an ebook and on Smashwords. And within that book, I talk about this process, but I also have links to my site, and that brings them in. The other thing is I have a podcast, the Scholarpreneur Podcast, where I interview academics who are doing interesting things, finding employment in the fractured world of 21st century higher education. In the podcast, I interview people, I provide good content, and at the end of the episode, I mention my website. So anyone who hears this podcast and becomes interested, know that they can go to my website and get more information. These 2 things are at the top of my funnel. Further down the funnel on the engagement part, I've been doing things to get more visitors to opt in on my email list. I'll give people something to opt in on my list, like another free book. Then, once they're on my email list, I'll create better emails that I send out. These emails give pure value to customers. At the bottom of the funnel, which is the sales part, I pitch consulting services and some products as well. I'm always adding new products to the Scholarpreneur. I want to create new courses like how to teach online, how to do online publishing, or how to create a Udemy course. And with each of these parts of the funnel, I'm always testing the results. If I test something that gets 10% more traffic than before, that's 10% more people who are put into my sales funnel. If I add some more emails into my autoresponder series and people like that, then that makes my audience even more engaged, and that increases the number of people who get to the bottom of the funnel. I'm always testing things. I'm always tweaking. If it works, I do more of it. And if it doesn't work, I put it on the side and I try something else. This is the beauty of having an online business. It's very easy to tweak things and test things, and you don't have to worry about taking a chance. If it doesn't work, you just go back to what it is you did before. Here's some other things that you can do to generate traffic to get people into the top of the funnel. Writing guest posts. Find bloggers that are in your area and agree to write a guest post for them. You're not pitching, you're not being salesy in your guest post, but at the end of your guest post, there is a link to your website, and that is a good way to get readers of people who follow another blog to come to your site. Write your own guest blog posts. Here, you want to write your own blog posts on your own site, and that'll get people to come. And as you write a blog post, you can put it on LinkedIn and Twitter and get people to come that way. You can be a guest on a podcast. I've been a guest on other people's podcasts. Other people have been a guest on my podcast. We're exposing each other to our audiences, and when someone discovers me, if they like me, they'll start to consume my content. A lot of the people that I listen to online, I typically discovered listening because they were a guest on a podcast. That's how I found a lot of people, and that's how people have found me as well. The fourth one is to write a book. If you have a book that's available on Amazon that you can sell, that will get a lot of people interested in your product. Fifth, this is high-level engagement, is to be a paid public speaker. If somebody sees you speaking at a conference, at a seminar, and they like your message, they like what you have said, and they connect with what you've said, they're going to follow up on what you have done, and they're going to be very interested in your products and your consulting. These last 2 things, write a book, be a paid public speaker, it's like I just threw those out there on that list as if it took as much time as writing a blog post. Those last 2, of course, take a lot more time. A blog post you could do in a couple of hours. Those last 2 take a lot of time to build up to. But they are by far the most powerful. If you do those last 2 things, you can write a book and be a paid public speaker. Those things will widen the top, the middle, and bottom of your sales funnel. They have at least 10 times the impact of the other things, especially when it comes to getting clients. If you go to the website of a big name consultant, they typically have 2 things on there. First, they have a book that is about whatever topic it is they're consulting on, and that confers authority upon them. Second, they'll usually have a tab on their website that says speaking. This means that anyone at a university or a corporation who wants to bring them in as a speaker has their contact information so they can do that. Big time consultants typically have their own book and they do public speaking. Okay, I say it's important, but how on earth do you get into these things? We're going to talk about the first one, how to write a book, right now. and it's not nearly as hard as you think it is. I'm going to completely demystify this whole process, break it down. I've written several books on my own. I've consulted people on how to do it, and I'm going to break down this process and make it as simple as possible. How to self-publish your own book. We're not talking about going to a publisher, trying to get a contract, being rejected by publishing houses, writing a manuscript, it's rejected 12 times, and then the publisher has it sit in their desk for a year, and then they finally get around to publishing it, and they only release 1,000 to 2,000 copies in a regional market, and nothing comes of it. We're not going to do any of that. We are going to talk about how to self-publish a book. Self-publishing has really taken off in the last few years because certain technologies have made it very simple to do. And with the right tools, you can make your book look as professional as a book that went through a publishing house. I know how to do this because that's my job to do it. There are extraordinary benefits with having your own book with your name on it. I would consider it the ultimate business card. If you have a book that's based on the same topic that your consulting business is based on, that establishes you as an expert. Is your business about how to do business in China? Write a book called How to Do Business in China and Overcome Cultural Issues. Potential clients will immediately respect you, and your authority on the subject will multiply dramatically before their eyes, particularly if you can give them your book. It startles people when you say, "I've written a book." If you work on economic issues or succeeding as an undergraduate and you have a book, whoever it is, whatever demographic, if you can say, "I've written a book," that's an automatic authority booster. Today, nonfiction books are business cards for speaking, consulting, and deals. Publishing a book is less about sales and more about creating a brand. In many ways, the real customers of books aren't just readers, but they now include speaking agents, CEOs, investors, and startups, and most importantly for us, potential consulting clients. Andrew Keen, who's the author of The Cult of the Amateur, noted this trend. Although his books have sold well, he said that the majority of his book income is actually derived from speaking, getting public speaking gigs because he wrote a book, not through advances or royalties. He's been a public speaker all over the world purely for the authority that came from having a book of his own. Like I said earlier, you're not approaching a publishing house. What I use and what a lot of other consultants use is CreateSpace. CreateSpace is a service of Amazon. It is a print-on-demand service. It means that once you have uploaded your book document and have it on CreateSpace, if somebody orders it on Amazon, Amazon's printer whirs up, it spits out a book, and it's sent to the customer. Also, if you want some on hand, you can order 10 or 20 or 50 and have it sent to you. This is a wonderful thing because you don't have to print off 500 or 1,000 books and have them sitting in a warehouse or filling up your garage like it would be for self-published authors 10 or even 5 years ago. This means you don't have to worry about overhead or inventory or anything, and it makes your life really easy. You have to format your book in a certain way for CreateSpace, and we'll get to that. But before I get too far into all this, I want to make sure that you're convinced on how great it is to have a book of your own. A few weeks ago, I was talking to Erin Ebanks. She is a university instructor of communications, and she wrote a book of her own. It's called The Happy Professor. It's about time management as an adjunct, and also how to juggle teaching in universities with online teaching, and to put together enough teaching gigs that you can maximize your income doing all these different part-time gigs. Erin wrote a book, and she said that it had enormous impact on her career. I just want to play a couple of minutes of audio of what Erin has to say about writing her own book and what effect it has had on her. I remember you saying that of the book that you wrote on Happy Professor, you send that to people. Was it that one, or was it your other one that you send to people on a regular basis?
Well, it's interesting. The Happy Professor book, I wasn't so adamant about passing it out to people. It was my first book. I kind of felt weird about it. But, people started taking notice. And yes, now I pass them out to everybody, especially this summer when I took faculty development classes. I handed out so many copies of my Happy Professor book. And every time I handed one out, somebody said, "Oh, I'm going to show this to the head of my department. I think we could use this." Or, "Oh, I teach one of these guys, he taught a class and he said he thought the book would be useful for his students. I'm not sure if he's a, graduate professor or something, but he found a use for his classroom. And I've had, I'm now good friends with a lot of the deans of schools. And I would never normally just seek out friendships with deans, but they're so approachable once you say, hey, here's a few copies of my book. Do you think anyone could use it? And then you have a conversation and now you've made a contact.
What made you decide to want to get into self-publishing, and what have been some positive effects of getting into that?
I had so many positive benefits as a result that I did not anticipate. I've always wanted to write a book. I've just always been a writer. And that was kind of a life, goal of mine. And I'd had the idea a few years earlier when I had just started as an adjunct. And once I had the time, I had a summer where I wasn't teaching as many classes as I thought I would. And, a lot of people see that as a negative. I saw it as an opportunity. So I sat down and I finally wrote this book I'd been wanting to work on. And, I knew I only had maybe 2 or 3 months because it was the summer. So I poured as much time and energy into it as I could. I put a lot of focus into it. I wrote it for maybe 8-9 hours a day. And the response was overwhelming. It wasn't, it was, from deans at different schools who would reach out to me, from people in other areas of the country who would reach out and say thank you and then ask for consulting. So originally I thought, I'm going to self-publish a book and I'm going to make all this money. Well, okay, I broke even and that's great right now because, to be honest, some of the jobs that I've received as a result are huge. They pay so much. They pay me so well. And it's because I have garnered respect through this book. And so it's that type of stuff that you can get from self-publishing as an academic.
Okay, I don't know about you, but that convinces me quite a bit on how great it is to have a book. You can meet people and connect with people that you wouldn't have met with otherwise. Let's talk about how you put together your book. The good news is, because you have an academic background, writing a book is not going to be nearly as hard for you as it is for most people. This will be very, very easy compared to what you had to do for your dissertation or even your master's degree, because you're writing at the popular level, not an academic level. What you'll typically write on is the same topic of what your business is about. Whatever your consulting business is about, whatever you're focusing on, you write a book about that same topic. The first step is to come up with as many ideas as possible about your book topic, although it's going to relate to either your business or some aspect of it. As you're brainstorming, keep in mind that your book must do 2 things. It has to deliver fast results that can be measured in a short period of time for your readers, and it has to relate to the most pressing pains or desires of your audience. You can make the length about as short or long as you want, but 40 to 50,000 words is good to aim for. It's slightly on the slim side, but it's perfectly acceptable and it'll look great once it's all done. If you write 500 words a day, that will get you done in about 3 to 4 months. Write as you are growing your business, write as you are first speaking with your clients, as you're writing your first blog posts. It's sort of like you're chronicling your learning process as you're going and you're making an inventory of it. So writing a book helps you solidify what you've learned, but it also has the practical benefit of creating a book as you're going along. When you're researching your book, don't let this sound daunting. There are many easy ways to do research for your book topic, one of which is Amazon. Amazon has become a hub for customer feedback on thousands of products. There's valuable information that can be used when trying to create your book. Try searching for your book topic in Amazon Kindle Marketplace. Try to find the top 3 best-selling books in the category that you would likely publish in, and pay attention to the following things: the book title, the description, and customer reviews. Here, you can understand what kind of book title is popular with people, what kind of descriptions resonate, and when you see the reviews, you see why people like something, and this gives you an instant feedback into how to craft the message of your book. When you're choosing a title, it's similar to the process of when you are creating a title for your business or your website. Here's 2 examples of things that work really well: how to blank without blank, such as how to finish your dissertation without going crazy, or X simple ways to blank, 3 simple ways to grow your business in the next 30 days. People like to have numbers, lists. They like to know that what they're getting is quantified. That's a really great formula right there. The outline of a book basically follows this format. You can tweak it as much as you want, but this is something that I've worked with, I've seen others do in the past, and it works quite well. In the introduction of your book, you tell your story and you connect to your audience. You explain to them why you've had experiences that will relate to your audience and why you understand their difficulties and pains. As you do so, mention an urgent pain or pressing desire that they might have. Your prospect is desperate for a solution and they need it now. The more you connect with them, with their urgent pain or desire, the easier it'll be to sell them a solution. Next, tell a story about somebody who overcame this problem by using your method. There was a person who couldn't write their dissertation, and when they used my method, they were able to write their dissertation. The third chapter is how to use your method. You get into detail here, and this is an information dump. This might go on for a few chapters, but the way that you can write this session is, imagine you're doing a consulting session. Imagine that you're explaining a process to somebody who doesn't know as much about it as you do, or you're explaining something to a past version of yourself 2 or 3 years ago. The questions and the issues and the content of your consulting sessions will help out a lot here. Next, FAQ about your method. What are things that come up quite a bit? Concerns, questions, comments, confusions, and you can address them here. Then a case study. Give your audience proof that your method works. Mention someone who's used your method and has found success. This is one of the most powerful parts of the book. If you have a really good testimonial, it goes a long way to selling your book. Then an afterword, which is sort of a summary of the book, and you mention why it's important to do these things. And about the author, you talk about yourself, and you could also mention your website, of course, and your business. And then lastly, a bibliography. If you have a lot of facts or empirical data to back up what you're saying, then it's important to document it. But don't use footnotes when you're writing. That looks great in a Chicago-style academic paper. But with books, it can disrupt the flow, so it's better to have a bibliography at the end. There's another way to make the process of writing your book much easier, and I recommend mind mapping. Mind mapping is a process where you decide what will be in your book. Many people don't write books because they simply don't know how to start. They have an idea for a book, but they don't know what to do with it. They can't imagine how they'll get from their initial idea to a finished manuscript. If you ever get stuck, I recommend using a brain dump. Others call it a mind map. And you can use free software to create this with such things as Xmind. This process will take you from a book idea to a detailed book outline. The way you do it, as you can see on the screen, is that you have different sections branching off from the central thing, the central book. Each of those branches can be a chapter. From each of those branches, you can have sub-branches. That way you can add information on the fly. You don't have to work in a chronological order, and you can work analytically but also creatively. When you're mind mapping, you're using both sides of your brain, the left and the right, the analytical and the creative. Mind mapping asks you to go through a brainstorming process where you free flow ideas. This allows all thoughts, ideas, and information you have on the topic of your book to rise to the surface of your mind. After the first stage, which relies more on your more creative right brain, where you're dumping information on the page, you allow your analytical left brain to organize the material into the structure of your book and create a table of contents. This is like being in front of a blackboard or having a bunch of sticky post-it notes that you can paste wherever you want to. If you've done a really good job with this exercise and produced detailed chapter outlines, you'll even know what subjects to cover in each chapter. Here's an example of a mind map that I created for a book. This wasn't one of mine, but I was working on a consulting project with a Turkish lawyer. He wanted to have a book about offering legal services in Turkey because he wanted to appear as the expert to international companies who wanted to set up shop in Turkey, and he wanted that instantaneous authority, so I was working with him on this project. And as you can see with the mind map, there were chapter ideas, and then branching off, each of these things were different subsections. This is the mind map that we worked out together, and I'll include this mind map in the resources part of this section. When it comes to writing your manuscript, because you're an academic, you do know how to write, so you start off with an extraordinary advantage over most people. What I did was I would aim to write 500 words a day. In 3 or 4 months, you will be done with your first draft. I recommend, of course, getting someone to edit it, get someone to look at it to make sure the grammar and structure is okay. and set up your table of contents and format it, and you are good to go. So once you are done with this step, you have a manuscript. You have a Microsoft Word document. Okay, great. Now what? What do you do with it? How do you make it print on demand and all those other things I talked about a second ago? Next, what you do is you get a book cover. Of course, you need a cover for your book, and I've mentioned in previous sessions how to get one by going to Fiverr. And I just want to reiterate here that if you're not sure what you want the cover to look like, just find 2 to 3 books in your niche that are popular. Take the book covers and ask a graphic designer on Fiverr or Elance to make a book cover that looks similar to these. This isn't plagiarism or ripping off an idea. My sister is a professional graphic designer, and she says, well, we just notice industry trends and we see what are fashionable design styles right now, and we'll base a lot of our designs off of those things. So really, that's all you're doing. It's taking a style that's popular and fashioning a book idea around that design. So let's say your topic is how to finish a dissertation as quickly as possible. I'm going to look for 2 books on Amazon. There's my book on the left as a hypothetical example. On the right, Writing Your Dissertation in 15 Minutes a Day. This is one of the classics of this niche. As you can see, it's a very plain cover with no special design. And that tells me, okay, this book was a bestseller, and this cover obviously didn't stop that. So if I have a cover like that, then it won't stop me from selling copies too. You could just say to a graphic designer, here are 2 book ideas, make a book design that looks like one of these. Okay, so now you have a cover. Now you have a Microsoft Word document. You can't just upload your Microsoft Word document to CreateSpace and it'll start spitting out books. If you just did it that way, the format will be completely messed up. It'll look very splotchy and terrible and unprofessional. And people, rather than being drawn into you by your book, will be turned away. Your Microsoft Word manuscript needs to fit the dimensions of CreateSpace. It needs to fan out and have a front and back space cover. You also have to design it according to the dimensions of what the final book will be. Most books are 6 by 9, 6 inches by 9 inches. Some are 5 by 8, but that's more of the Harlequin novels, so I don't really recommend 5 by 8. 6 by 9 is a little bit safer. You also have to do chapter breaks in your document, and CreateSpace will give you a Microsoft Word template in which you can insert your information, and it will have the good formatting. I've included it with the resources for this section also, so you can use that Microsoft Word template to plug in your information that's in your manuscript, and you'll have something that CreateSpace will accept. Then, once you've inputted the information, you save your CreateSpace document as a PDF. You then take your PDF and you upload it to CreateSpace, and if everything is fine, then you can have a print-on-demand book that you can order from CreateSpace and hand out to people and have all the benefits of being a published author. Now, all these things I just talked about, formatting a document, uploading it, getting a cover, I talked about all of this very quickly as if it were all very simple and it's as simple as clicking a checkmark box. But the truth is, it's really difficult to do. When I first started with print on demand, I tried to format my document. I would spend hours on it. I thought I would fix something, but then I would make something else wrong. I just couldn't get my Microsoft Word document to work out right. If you've ever worked with Word, there's this entire subterranean layer of code that goes on in the background that I don't understand. It was infuriating, and I was banging my head against the wall. Well, unless you love digging into and formatting with Microsoft Word and page setup and all of those things, please outsource this step. Earlier, I talked about using Elance to automate your business and outsource things you weren't good at to grow your business. Now I am going to show you how to outsource by using the example of formatting a print-on-demand book. Let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone right here. I'm going to show you how to outsource something so you can apply this outsourcing method to anything in your business you don't want to do, but also how to create a print-on-demand book. Let's hop online. I'm going to show you the entire process of getting your print-on-demand book uploaded to CreateSpace and being ready to order. Now let's start at the beginning. CreateSpace will give you a template to use in order to input your book's information. They'll give you a Microsoft Word document and you can input the information of your book. Thanks to the template, you don't have to worry about font size, about the font, or whatever. Let me show you what it looks like when you open it up. Okay, book title, author name. Here you can enter the ISBN. When we set up our CreateSpace book, they'll give us that in a second. Dedication, contents, acknowledgements. Okay. And then content for your chapter that you can just plop into here. And also up here, you can see that you notice in books on the top of the page, they'll have the book title, but then every other page, it'll be book title, then author name, then book title. Well, you just put that up in here and it'll do it for you. So that's really nice. Here's the problem. Almost every time I've ever worked with this template, even though it's set up nicely, when I actually input my information, all of this formatting stuff gets completely out of whack. I think it's fine, but then suddenly there's weird gaps in the chapter, and it should link up to the table of contents in the beginning with the pages, but then for reasons I don't understand, things get out of whack. The formatting looks all goofy. I try to fix it. I only make it worse. There's all this hidden code in Microsoft Word, and it drives me crazy. You could waste tens or hundreds of hours banging your head against the wall, but there is a very cheap way to have someone else do this for you. So all you have to worry about is writing your great book, and then someone else will take care of the formatting. You can probably guess that I'm going to go on the internet and get someone else to do this for me and pay them just a little bit of money. And if you guess that, you are absolutely right, because that is what we're going to do. We're not going to mess around with all this formatting stuff. We're just going to input our content, make it as good as possible, and have someone else fix it for us. Let me show you where to go to get somebody else to format your book for you. Here we are at Elance. Let me show you the steps to have somebody else do all the hard, agonizing, difficult work of getting your book formatted, how to put up a posting to attract people who can do the work for you, and how to commission the work and get the results that you want. You can also use Odesk. Honestly, it's the same. So if you don't have an account, you can create an account here. I'm going to sign in to my Elance account. Now here at Elance, if you want to hire someone, you're going to go up here to hire and click on post a job. And it can be turn Word document into create space PDF file. People who are looking for this will know exactly what you mean by it. Now I'm going to show you what to type here so that you can describe a project and you can get somebody who will work for you who has a great eye for detail and will do a great job. Let me show you how. You could write something like, I need a few errors fixed in my Microsoft Word document and a PDF produced that will be accepted to CreateSpace. It is 99% formatted. You just need to work with me to fix any remaining errors. So you're just telling them, I need a CreateSpace document, and say that. And then I like to add one last question. That is, lastly, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Why am I putting this question here? Well, here's why. Some people will click on a job and just say, yes, I will do it for you, no questions asked. If you put that question there, if people answer it, you know that they have an eye for detail. And that means when you ask them to tweak something, or maybe you need to go back and forth a little bit before they give it to you, you know that they'll pay attention to what you say. If people who are trying to get a job don't pay attention to your description, then that's a red flag. So I put that up, and usually there'll be about 20 or 30 people who will respond. I go through the people who applied. If they don't answer this, I don't even look at their qualifications. I just delete that, and I pare it down to the people who answered, and then I look at it. So the category of work, design, multimedia, and here, page and book design, and that will be good enough. You can get people to do it between $20 or $40. So fixed price, select budget, less than $500, and you'll have people who will put forth bids on how much they'll do the project for. If you do it between $20 and $40, that's perfectly acceptable. And say, no thanks, don't feature my post. Okay, and this is all you have to do. Click post the job and you'll start to get responses back from people. Let me show you a couple of responses I got back from people when I put this up. So here's just two of them. I pared this down aggressively. This is Mehboob Sam, and he proposed $20 and said, I will do this within one day. And he describes his experience. And then this person, Digital Studio, I decided not to do it because this sounds like it's a group of people working together. I prefer one person. Mehboob and I have worked together a lot. If you look for him on Elance, I recommend him. We've gone back and forth. He's always done the job to perfection, never let me down, works fast, works for a great price, great guy. So I recommend him if you want to get set up. And let me show you what I received from Mehboob when we were all done. So here is the PDF he got from my book, How Iowa Conquered the World. He did a lot of great things in here. This is the copyright page, which I recommend having, and your ISBN. I'll show you where that goes in a second. Dedication page, acknowledgements. Here you can see that before I get to the introduction, it's using Roman numerals for counting. Table of contents, then the introduction. I like here that there's nothing up here on top. There's on the introduction page, normally there's the title or there's the author name up here and then the title, and it alternates back and forth. But then on the beginning of every chapter, you don't see that. So I had to go back and forth with him a little bit to get this formatting how I wanted, but he did it perfectly and I was very happy with it. Okay, so that is how you use Elance to get your book formatted. There is one other thing I want to show you, and that is getting a cover for your book. Let me hop over to my favorite website on the planet, which is Fiverr.com. So I'm going to say what I'm looking for, and I'll say create space book cover. And there's people here who will create a create space book cover for me. I just have to, like this person right here, I will make a professional cover for ebook or create space. Here's all you really have to do. These are fiction titles right there. They'll take images if you have it, and they'll do a design based on what you want. So all you do is you order it, and you have to tell the person when you order the gig 3 things. The first is you have to tell them the dimensions of your book. Is it 6x9? Is it 5x8? Because that affects how big their cover is. Second, you have to tell them how many pages your book has. That is also important because that affects the design, because there's the spine on the book. Third, what I do to get the exact type of book I want is I'll give them 2 examples from Amazon of similar book covers that I like. Remember earlier when I told you about getting a book cover designed, where you find 2 books in your niche and you like them? Well, you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to give them a link to Amazon of 2 books that you like, and they'll know exactly what kind of book it is. Then, when you're done, they'll send it back to you. Also, another thing is they'll ask for the title of the book, they'll ask your name, and usually there's back matter. When you pick up a book at the bookstore, on the back there's a blurb that gives description. They're going to want about a paragraph of text describing what your book is all about. If you're curious what to write, just pick up any book on your bookshelf, and that'll help give you an idea of what to say. I'm going to show you what I got back from my person on Fiverr. They're going to send you a PDF, not a JPEG, a PDF, because that's what CreateSpace accepts, and that's the format they give it to you. Let me show you what I got in return. So here's my book, How Iowa Conquered the World. It looks kind of funny, but that's because this cover is fanned out. This is the title here. This is the spine here in the middle, and then the back here is the back matter. And then on the bottom of the page, you can also see a little bit of my biography, just a couple of sentences about me. So if you have a back matter, some basic information about the book, and then a little biography, that looks really nice. And the person also left a blank spot right there for the barcode to go. But they're going to know how to do all this stuff. You don't have to worry about it. So there you go. Now you have a cover. Now we're going to go hop over to createspace.com, and we're going to look how to take and put all these components together. We have our formatted book manuscript. We have our cover. Now let's see how we input all this information and have a print-on-demand book of our own. Here we are at the beginning, createspace.com. If you don't have an account, you can create it here. If you do have an account, enter your information and you can log in. I have a number of books here that I've worked on in the past, but if you're going to create something new, click up here on Add New Title. Tell us the name of your project. I'll just use a title of something that I've done in the past. The most productive people in history. This is a paperback. The setup process, let's do guided. Title, most productive people. If you want a subtitle, you can include it. Primary author, this is you. I'll say Scott Rank. If there are other authors, you can add them. If not, series title, this probably isn't part of a series, so don't worry. Don't worry about edition number. It's in English, and choose whatever day is best for you. Save and continue. ISBN. Unless this book already has an ISBN, which it likely does not, you will include it here with the free CreateSpace assigned ISBN. They will give you one at no charge, which is very helpful. Unless you have a publishing company, don't worry about this. Click Assign Free ISBN. And it will give you there. When you're in the formatting stage of the book, you'll worry about this. Click Continue. Interior type, you probably won't have any color images, so click black and white. Paper color, click cream, because if you have white, it looks like printer paper. Upload your book file. I'm going to save you a lot of money from $1.99. You remember in that earlier video when we looked at Elance? We're going to grab that and we're going to put it here. Thanks to our friend on Elance who formatted it for us, we're going to find that. Use this ends before the edge of the page, and then click Save. There we are. It says our automated print check didn't find any issues. That is always what you want to see. If you want to see how it'll look when someone actually buys the book, you can click on Launch Interior Reviewer, and it will launch a bit of software that will show you how your book would look to somebody who purchased it. Let's take a look at that. Okay, and I want to point out some formatting things right here because these are important things not to miss. So I have my title and then my subtitle there. I have my copyright page here, and that ISBN that CreateSpace assigned me is located here as well. An acknowledgements page, and then I make this left side blank. You see that in a lot of books where it'll be blank there. Then my table of contents, and then my introduction. So you'll see on the top there when you go through the book that the name is on the left side, the title's on the right side, but when it comes to pages like this, part 1 or the first page of a chapter, there's nothing on the top, and usually with the beginning of a chapter, the left side of the page will be blank. This isn't the universal case, but this is what I found to be true. And I made sure my person on Elance did that. In the bottom of the page, you can see that there's a page number. Okay, so I like the formatting. I think it looks nice. I'm happy with it. I'll go down here and go on Save and Continue. Okay, I'm happy, so I'll click on Continue. Your cover. You can choose matte or glossy. CreateSpace recommends matte for fiction novels and glossy for nonfiction. Glossy will have that little bit of plastic on the front that might tear away around the edges. Really, it's up to you. I go with glossy, but you won't burn yourself one way or another. We are going to, once again, use the cover that our wonderful friend at Fiverr designed for us. We are not going to spend $400 on that. No, thank you, sir. So upload a print-ready PDF cover. I'll grab that file and see you in a second. Then I'll click Save. Upload complete. Good. I will click Continue. Okay, so here's the information. I like it. It seems pretty good. Once I'm all done, I'll click Submit Files for Review, but first I'm going to return to my home page because there's some extra information I need to fill out. We have all the content set up, but we need to do some other things like the channels and the pricing. I want to talk about pricing for a second because this is pretty important since this will determine how you use your book. Okay, standard distribution. Expanded, I'm going to skip this because honestly, libraries and academic institution, Amazon says it'll be in there. Trust me when I say you're never going to see your book in a library just by clicking on that button. They say it in the sense that, well, it is possibly hypothetical. It could happen, but it won't. Okay, now the list price. Here's the thing. When you purchase the book for yourself, it'll only cost you about $2 or $3 plus shipping, which is about $3 to $4. So to get your own book in your hands will be about $6 total with shipping. If you get 20 books, then that spreads out the shipping costs and it's about $3 or $4 for you per book. To be quite honest, unless you market your book a lot of people won't be purchasing it, at least not at the beginning. The important thing for books is that you buy 50 or 100, you give them to people that you meet, you give them to people at conferences, you notice on your website that you have a book, and that gives you credibility. Your price is honestly quite arbitrary. I prefer a round number, $9.99. That way you can calculate what your profits will be. I like to aim for a royalty of about $2 or so. There's a CreateSpace store, but very few people buy from that. Most purchase from Amazon. And it'll automatically calculate to pounds and euros because this is sold also in England and Europe, but in much fewer numbers than other places. So save and continue. Okay, the description. I usually just have, I like a one paragraph description of what the book is about, and you can include that information. You could include the same thing that goes on the back of your book. The BISAC category, this is just where does it fit into. This book is a history book, so I'll find history, and I'll narrow it down to something like European history to make it a little bit more specific, and I can say Great Britain, sure. Author biography, you can add just a couple sentences about yourself if you want to, basic information, where you studied, what your business is about, and that. Country of publication, United States, if that's where you are, and a couple of keywords that are in your title. Productivity, most productive people. Okay, save and continue. Okay, publish on Kindle. You can go through this setup and it'll be available as an ebook format, but for our purposes, we can just skip that right now. Okay, we're taken back to the beginning, and then all you do is submit files to review, and you'll click something, and 1 or 2 days later, you'll have a notification saying your book is ready and your book is available. At that point, you can order your books on Amazon and have it sent to you. Let me go to one of my books that have already been published, and let me show you what that screen looks like in that process of purchasing your own books. Let's go to my dashboard and let's choose one of my books. How about this one, How Iowa Conquered the World? A fun book I wrote about my beloved home state. I want to order some copies. I am going to a conference where I will be a keynote speaker about the history of Iowa, and I want to have a table full of books that I will sell to people for $15 a pop. I'm going to come over here and click on Order Copies. As you can see, the unit price is only $2.96. Now, when I check out, it's going to add $2 or $3 for shipping. But if I get 20 or 30 or 50 copies, then that lowers the shipping costs per book dramatically. And that's what I do. So if you're in a situation, if you're going to a networking event where you want to hand out books, if you're going to a conference, if you're going to any function where your book will be of use for you, this is how you order copies of your book. You pass it out. And there you go. You are a published author, and your ability to impress has just shot through the roof. Now that you have your book, you can easily shift into becoming a paid public speaker. Having a book makes you an expert. You appear as an authority on a subject. Because of this, you can go to a university or a corporation or a nonprofit group and come in as a paid public speaker, and they will be happy to have you talk in front of them. Being a public speaker is a great thing for you to do as a consultant. This is what gives you massive visibility. This is what makes people want to become your client. They see you do a great job of communicating on a stage and they think, wow, if I could talk with him or her one-on-one, I would get incredible results. This is a great way to find your clients. You can also bring along an armload of books and sell your books at an enormous markup and get paid to sell your book as you're doing all these things. Public speaking and having a book and being a consultant work together absolutely beautifully. Those 3 things are an iron triangle, and that's why a lot of consultants do these 3 things. I'm going to mention here the exact process about how you can become a paid public speaker. This is based on my personal experience, but also resources from Grant Baldwin. He's a public speaker who talks about how to break into this industry, and he runs a course called Book and Paid to Speak that gets way more into detail if you want to learn more. The point is, there are audiences out there that need to hear your message. There are individuals who need to be encouraged and inspired by your story. You may not realize it yet, but they need to hear you talk. If you know your motivation for speaking, then it becomes easier to know what events and opportunities to make the most of for you. There are extraordinary benefits that come from being a paid public speaker. You get paid for it, of course. You build up credibility. Pictures of you on a big stage on your website make you look much more authoritative. You can promote or sell your product, whether your book or your consulting services. You can grow your audience, you can network with prominent people, you get to attend conferences that are in your niche and learn about what's happening in your industry, and you build authority. So maybe you're wondering, you think, okay, this is interesting. I could check out paid public speaking, but you wonder, where do I even begin? How do I connect with decision makers who organize these conferences and book speakers? How do I find gigs? What do I even do to find those things? What should I speak at when I'm on the stage? And how do I get paid? That last one is pretty critical. That's why you are a paid public speaker. Okay, well, let's start off with a simple thing on what should I speak about. So take away all the preconceived ideas of what you should or could talk about. What do you really want to talk about, and what is the perfect topic for you to share in front of a group of people? Well, the first is your book topic, the thing that you wrote about, your message that resonates with your readers. Have an abridged version of that that's about 30 or 40 minutes long, or however long they give you to do your speaking. Second, you can talk about your experience and knowledge. What experiences do you have in life? These can be both personal or professional. Maybe you've worked in a certain industry or business that has given you special experience. Maybe you've had some type of personal life experience you want to talk about. Maybe you built and sold a business, you traveled the world, you have mastered a certain industry. These could all be experiences you could share with others that they could learn from. What topics do you just know a lot about? What do you feel extremely knowledgeable on? Whatever is the core basis of your consulting business and what you have focused your energies on, these are all great things to talk about. Recognition. Perhaps you won some type of award or recognition that gives you credibility in a certain space. And enjoyment. Please, for the benefit and the love of all audiences, please only speak on topics that you actually like talking about. If you don't like talking about it, your boredom will be visible on stage and it'll bore people in the audience. If you're energized by it and you care, people in the audience will notice and they can't help but be interested too. You're more fun and the audience will have more fun as well. Who do you want to speak to? Now, there are a lot of different audience types you could speak to, so let me give you a few possible categories. Thankfully, because you've gone through the process of identifying your audience in session 1 of our consulting series, you already have a pretty good idea of what this looks like. But I just want to mention some of these things. Consider demographics. Perhaps there's a specific age group you want to speak to. What is your target market? Professionals, university students, high school students? What about the profession? Maybe you want to focus more on an audience within a certain industry. You could focus on speaking to people in healthcare, insurance, sales, publishing, entrepreneurship, or education. If you want to focus on speaking to within a specific industry, it's generally one you have some experience in or have come from. What about the topic? Finally, what is your goal when you're speaking? Is it to sell more copies of your book? Who is your book written for? Who are most of your readers? Where do they gather? That's your speaking audience. Is your goal to make more money? Who's paying for speakers on your topic subject? You'll earn more focusing on businesses or corporations versus nonprofits or education. You can speak to more than one kind of audience, but don't try to be all things to all people and say, oh yeah, I can speak about anything. Well, if you try to speak about everything to everyone, you won't say anything to anyone. You have to keep your topic clear. Now let's transition to talk about your presentation itself. What makes a good, memorable presentation? Here's my big tip when you're first starting out, and that is to begin with the end in mind. Where do you want to take your audience? What feeling or change or action do you want them to have or experience as a result of your talk? Once you know that, you can begin to create the map, you can even mind map in this process, that will help you lead them to that place. One useful thing you can do is to just write a paragraph about what your speech will be about. Then your main focus is very clear and you can always keep that on your mind as you're speaking and you're not wandering all over the place. And it's important to organize your speech. If you just talk off the cuff, it's going to look unprofessional to those who came to you to listen. Anyway, here are things that you can do once you have the end in mind. Tell lots of stories. Stories are memorable and stories are relatable. Stories hold people's attention. Try to avoid third-person stories, but mention things that happen to you. Second, use humor. You don't have to be a stand-up comedian, but try to be relatable. Third, be sincere to who you are. Some people are funnier than others, and if that's your style, go for it. Others are much more serious and have a commanding presence. Think of Eva Perón from Argentina. She was a powerful speaker, but she didn't get that way by telling jokes, so If you are an Eva Peron style person, go for it. Have lots of actionable content. Give something for the people to walk away with so they'll see the use in what you said. Maybe you can't entertain them or juggle or do Cirque du Soleil, but if you leave them with something to do, they'll remember that. And finally, practice. You really need to work this out a bunch of times so that you look smooth and experienced when you're on stage. So now that you're clear on why you want to speak, who you want to speak to, and what you want to speak about, it's time to create the marketing tools that will help you best communicate who you are and what to give to potential clients and decision makers so that they can book you. There are 3 things that you need that are very important. The first is your website. Well, we already have that because we built it in a previous session. And you can just create an extra tab on your website, an extra page that just says speaking. On that page, you need to have a demo video. On the right side of the screen is an image from Grant Baldwin. This is his speaking page. All he has is looking for a speaker. It just mentions some sentences about Grant. Grant is a speaker that can get your audience to both laugh and think. Watch the video below to see more. And then you have a video on your website. But what goes in that video? The video is a 3 to 4 minute demo of you actually speaking in front of a group of people. It's not a highlight reel of media clips. It's not an interview. It's not some voiceover talking about how great you are. It's not you talking into the camera about why you're a public speaker. It's you actually speaking in front of a group of people. This video doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you have a clip of you speaking in front of a crowd where you just have somebody's smartphone on a tripod recording in the back of a room, that's fine. Where can you go to do this? If you're a member of Toastmasters or can show up at a meeting or be a guest speaker at a Kiwanis, they're always taking people to come speak to them. That is good enough as a clip to be used to go up on your website, and that can get you your first speaking gigs. Any type of forum where you're speaking in front of a group of people at a university class, whatever. Just have a video of you doing that, and that will be perfectly fine. And also, you mentioned on your website topics you can speak about. You mentioned, I give speeches on this topic. So anyone who's trying to book you will know what you speak about, and that makes the process a lot easier for them. Now it's time to go out there and find speaking opportunities and let decision makers know that you have a solution to their need for a qualified speaker. You need to identify potential clients and reach out to them, not wait for them to come to you. If you just put up a page on your website, that'll almost guarantee that you won't get a speaking gig. The best potential clients are those who have already booked public speakers in the past. It's far more difficult to convince an organization to book you if they've never booked a public speaker before. But if they're used to bringing in a speaker, it's much easier for you to get your foot in the door. This is very important in this step to do this level of research. Because of this, the best places to start are conferences and association events. You can find these by doing Google searches. Let's say my talk is how to finish your dissertation. So I'll do research for academic writing conference, academic writing association, academic writing event, state academic writing conference. And state and regional and local events are great places when you're first starting out because they're smaller, they're lower risk, and they're more willing to take on someone who has less speaking experience. You're not going to be a keynote in an international event if you don't have public speaking experience. Another way to find existing events is to look up other speakers who are speaking at the kinds of events and to the types of audiences you want to speak to. Then you can check their recommendations page for testimonials of places they've been to and give you an idea of where to speak at. So what do you do now? Do you just cold call them and start selling? Our next step is to find the decision maker, the person who books speakers. Usually it's the main person like an executive director, and then you send them an email. Before you send them an email, don't just bombard them with paragraphs and paragraphs of why you're so great and your full force sales letter. Remember, you want to start off slow and ease into things. People do business with those they know, like, and trust. Your goal should be with the first email to build a bridge, not to cram your services down their throat. And I recommend you keep your email short and sweet. The longer it is, the less likely to read all of it. All you need to do is ask some simple questions like, when is your next event? Assuming the date of their event is not on their website. Who are some speakers you worked with before? And have you started planning your next conference yet? You get some simple information. They'll email you back and they'll get that information. And if it looks like it's possible for you to get your foot in the door, then you can respond back with a simple email. Great, I'm a professional speaker. Here's my website with a demo video of my speaking. They'll see the video, and if they like you, they'll book you, and there you are. And there's another thing you can do to get booked very quickly. A few sessions ago, we talked about finding a catalyst, somebody who will connect you with clients and help you begin to find clients. A catalyst is also a great person to find public speaking gigs because they probably have connections within the industry and organizations that invite public speakers. Now let's get to the sticky issue of charging for your speech. Knowing what to charge in the beginning is one of the biggest challenges and hangups for new speakers. The good news is you can get paid on your first speaking engagement, but you need to be halfway decent. You can't just walk in and have no experience whatsoever. This can't be the first time you've ever spoken in front of other human beings. Well, how much should you charge? It depends on what kind of group you're speaking in front of. In terms of the market, a corporate conference will pay better than a nonprofit. You can also charge more for speaking to universities instead of high schools. Your experience is important. Somebody who's brand new can't charge as much as someone who has 10 years and is a well-known name on the speaking circuit. And marketing materials. If your materials are highly polished, then you're going to be perceived as having more value than someone whose materials and website and demo video look a little bit more amateurish. So here's a way to think about it. Your first few talks, your first one will probably be about $1,000. You can move it up over time, and as you're getting started, you can think of between $1,000 to $2,500. If there's an event you really care about and you're passionate about and you just want the experience, you can accept $500 or $750, but don't let this be your baseline asking price for negotiation. Make your baseline $1,000. If you're doing a keynote before an enormous audience of 10,000 people, that's when you move up your cost to $5,000, but that will come later with experience. So those were the main points about doing paid public speaking. This is a great way to boost your career. If you get involved in this enough and do enough speaking gigs, this could be a career in its own right. But the point being that it complements very well being a consultant and having your own book. And if you have these three pieces together, this almost guarantees that you can have a stable, reliable, full-time income as a consultant. Now we're going to move on into one of the final steps of this session. Not the most fun, but it's necessary, and I'll make it as painless as possible, and that is handling finances. What do you need to know about your business for tax information, filing to the IRS, so you don't have any problems? Please note right here that I am not a lawyer or an accountant, and please consult a finance expert for more details on these issues. I'm going to tell you what I have done, what has worked for me, and resources that will make this process simple and create another system where you don't have to have the headache about finances, but you can mostly set it and forget it and make sure all of your books are in order. Okay, first of all, tax info. One of the biggest things that caught me off guard in the beginning of my business was the fact that I had to pay taxes quarterly during the year. As a self-employed person, I had to pay taxes on January 15th, April 15th, June 15th, and September 15th. I had to pay the state and federal government a quarter of the taxes that I owe them each year. Since the government isn't taking any money out of what your client pays you, you pay taxes based on income that you generate from your business. If you overpay the IRS, they will send you a refund. How much do you owe? You can get a form called 1040-ES, which will help you calculate how much that you probably owe to the IRS. Once you calculate that, you set up an account with the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System, EFTPS, and that's where you can send your quarterly payments. It's hard to know exactly how much you have to pay, but in the first year of my business, I used a ballpark figure where I was putting aside 10% of all of my gross earnings from my business, and I paid into taxes, and that was more than enough. I got a refund after that. Now, businesses can vary widely based on how much you owe, how much you can deduct from your final taxes, so don't take that recommendation of mine to the bank, but I'm just telling you what I did. If your client pays more than $600 for your services, they need to file a 1099-ES form. They're required to complete a 1099 misreporting form for an independent worker or unincorporated business if they pay you $600 or more. They add up all payments made to you during the year, And if the amount is $600 or more for the year, they must issue a 1099 for that payee. If the amount they pay you totals less than $600 for the tax year, they are not required to issue a 1099 form. The penultimate thing I want to mention here is file for an LLC. An LLC is a limited liability company. It gives you lawsuit protection, tax savings, deductible employee benefits, anonymity, creating a separate legal entity for personal protection and asset protection. What this all means is that if you get sued, then you will only lose your business assets if you have an LLC. But if you get sued and you don't have an LLC, then you could lose your house, your car, your savings, and everything else. I'll say this, when you're first starting your business, it's not like you have to have an LLC before you even put up your website and there are lawsuits just waiting all over the place to jump on you. This isn't something you have to worry about until you start to get somewhat of a regular flow of clients and you're actually earning money. And of course, there are industries that are more prone to this. If you have a product that is very technical, that gets into the realm of legal advice or very specific quantifiable information, there is maybe a higher risk of a lawsuit than offering one-on-one coaching to somebody. But the point being, this is something you do need in your business once you start getting clients come in. I recommend going to LegalZoom.com in order to get your LLC set up. They'll make it as easy as possible to do this. And one last thing I want to mention is, in any good business system, you want to farm out things that you don't enjoy doing or can't do well to other people. There is lots of software that you can use to make this process easier. I use TurboTax to handle my taxes. I use LegalZoom to set up an LLC. But once you have a process set up for your business, you want to think about outsourcing your accounting or your bookkeeping to somebody else. One person I recommend is Erin Johnstone. She has a website, vividnumbers.com. She offers accounting and bookkeeping services for small businesses, and she also has really useful blog posts about what to be mindful of when you're setting up your business. I talked to her when I got started. She was enormously helpful, really broke things down and made it as simple as possible. And she'll also recommend what resources to use to automate all of your accounting, automate things so you know what's tax deductible, and just turn all the headaches of finance in your business into another system that you can set up and forget it. So that was it for the financial issue. Let me talk about the resources for the session that are available in PDF form. The first is an example of a mind map. So when you are mind mapping your own book, you know what to do. The second is a book creation checklist. When you are creating your own book, when you're dealing with simple formatting issues, this checklist will help you know exactly what to go through. I also included a CreateSpace Word template. When you're inputting your manuscript in, this template will, in theory, be able to produce a nice 6x9 book, which you would then hand over to the person you found on Elance who will format it for you perfectly. Finally, I have a finances checklist. All those things I just mentioned a few minutes ago, I have all of the information there. I have links. I tell you exactly where to go to get the resources you need so that you can not worry so much about the expenses for your business. I want to mention some final things before we wrap up on this session. When you're creating your business, at any point there are going to be bumps in the road. Whether it's trying to find your audience, creating your website and your digital presence, finding your first clients, leading a client session, trying to grow your business, it happens to everyone. Even the most successful people, when they start to grow, they can have dips and setbacks and things that can come that can be discouraging. I want to encourage you not to give up. The only time you failed is when you stop trying. There will be bumps in the road, there will be difficulties, but whenever you get stressed, whenever you face them, just remind yourself of your UMP, your unique motivating purpose. One of the reasons that you wanted to create this consulting business was so that you could create something that was built up around your unique talents and your unique passions so you can help other people with those things. Remind yourself of why you got started in the first place, and that will give you the energy to keep going when you have hangups and setbacks and all these other things. So it happens to everyone. Keep going, and eventually you will hit your stride and things will come together. And the last thing I want to mention is don't fall into arrival syndrome. What I mean by this is we can think, oh, okay, if I can get a client a month, I'll be happy. Then we get that and we think, if I could earn $3,000 a month, I'd be happy. Then you think, if I could get invited to these conferences, I'd be happy. Then you get that. Then you think, if I could earn $5,000 a month, I'd be happy. The point is that celebrate each one of your milestones along the way. Yes, you want to keep your eyes on the future and think about growing, but if you're always deferring satisfaction and patting yourself on the back until you get to a certain point, and that point is always being pushed further and further away, then it's like a treadmill and you're not allowing yourself to ever be satisfied. So celebrate the milestones. Whatever you do to indulge yourself, your favorite dessert, your favorite drink, treat yourself to that when you get your first client, when you earn your first money, when you have somewhat stable income. Congratulate yourself, treat yourself, be encouraged by these things. So yes, be focused on how to grow your business and make it larger, but don't always think, okay, I have to be the best person in the world and I'm never going to be happy with myself. So wherever you are right now, even if you don't have your first income, congratulate yourself for taking that first step. And that is where I want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me your time of being involved in these sessions about how to take your academic knowledge and form a coaching business, because I really value your time, number one. But second, thank you for what you have done for yourself. The fact that you are looking into ways to change your life, to start something new, to take a step into the unknown, even if it's a little bit scary. 95% of people never do that. They stick with what is familiar, even if they don't like it. So thank you for taking that step. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have enormous success because of this. So that's all I have to say here. Please ask me any questions or anything you want me to follow up on that could give you some more clarity.